made you actually want to become county recorder back in 2017?
Okay, well, it goes back to 2002. I initially ran for the state legislature, Arizona House of Representatives. I got first elected there in 2008 and served for 8 years with a term limit of 8 years. The only other job I ever wanted in elected office was recorder because I handled the voter registration information for the local party. And I could see just how poorly the list of the registered voters were maintained. So the only two jobs I ever wanted to do was be a legislator or recorder. So luckily for me, the term limit coincided with the election for recorder. So I just jumped into this race, and I've now been here 8 years.
And what do you enjoy or I guess like about the position, especially here in Cochise County?
Solving problems. That's why I want to go in the legislature also. Issues come up, and we look for solutions, and we implement those solutions. Like when I got here, the previous recorder didn't purge the voter rolls. There were a lot of people on there that shouldn't have been there. They don't live here anymore, or they passed away. In my nearly 8 years, I've removed over 40,000 people from the rolls, and I'm sitting on 80,000-ish active right now. And after this election, that number will be north of 50,000. There's a long process of removing somebody. It takes up to 4 years. So that's why you can't just go out and remove anybody. You have to do the process of the NAVRA.
Why was that important to you to go through and remove those who shouldn't be in there?
Voting is very important. I started my first vote when I was 18 in Germany. I was a soldier in Germany and had, unfortunately, I voted in Illinois. I know how it goes. But they mailed my ballot over. There was a punch card, and we had to punch out the little chads. And then I voted ever since. 2008, I got the privilege of voting overseas again. I was in Kuwait, and I was actually on that ballot. It was really kind of interesting to win your election and not even be in the country. So that was kind of interesting, but I came back just a few days before session started. But the voting rights are vitally important to me and this nation, and I wanted to make sure we could do everything we could to secure those rights.
And so what would another 4 years mean for you, or what could you accomplish in that?
Well, continuing what we've done, I've instituted drop boxes for mail-in voting. They're under surveillance cameras, and we have one here is outside. They're only open 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. All the other ones are inside county buildings. So whatever we can do to secure the elections, I'm more than willing to implement. And that part of that is making sure if you're not a registered voter here, you're not on the rolls. So cleaning the rolls, providing as much security as possible. And I don't know what security measures may come up in the future, but if they're legitimate security measures, we will implement them.
And we talk, and I'm going to say, forgive me for my lack of complete knowledge, but from what I do know, their election is part of the recorder role, but there's also the records part of being the county reporter.
Yeah, we have two main functions. It's voter registration. If you go back 40 or more years, the amount of elections the recorder did was almost zero. They mailed out the absentee ballots, which were just a few, but with the advent of mail-in voting, that responsibilities all fell on the recorders. So that's relatively new. And then the other responsibility is all the recorded documents of the county, which for us go back to 1881.
And so why should people vote for you in November?
I am the one that will provide as much security as possible. I will fight for Cochise County and Phoenix. Part of my job is political, which I don't have a problem with. I deal with the other recorders, Secretary of State, and at some levels the federal government, but that's primarily the Secretary of State's role. I will fight for what I feel is right. As you know, or hopefully you know, we had an issue last week. Nearly 97,000 potential non-citizens on the voter rolls. That issue came up from MVD doing my job. I've been against that as long as I can remember. We tried to run a bill a few years ago to bring that authority back to us in the SOS. It got vetoed. I think it was 5 years ago. But I'm looking to bring that back again. Obviously, I don't run bills anymore, but I have a lot of friends still in the legislature. So when things need to go through, or if they have questions about our job, it's very complicated, and very few people realize there's two of us. The recorder does one half of the election director does the other half. I don't do anything on election day, but we do all the early voting in my office, and then we have a secondary satellite site for early voting, and all the mail-in voting, which is about 80% of our county, which is about the normal for the state. Roughly 8 out of 10 ballots that are cast are done by mail statewide. So the amount of responsibility we have is great, and I enjoy doing that.
And you brought up the elections part, and I want to give you the opportunity to address, because I know it's out there, the elections director position that you had hired, and there was some questions about should that have been the person.
Correct. Yeah, we'll take one step back. Our election director had left the county. We were starting a May election for a jail district, which was an all-county, all-mail election. There was no one there to administer that election. You have to be state certified, which I am, to handle the ballots. So I was asked if I would step up and volunteer to do that job, and I said yes. So they drafted an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, granting me the election director powers and authority to do that part of the job. So I got that. We had to go to court. The Attorney General didn't like it, which was kind of funny, because we got the MOU from another county. And other counties were actually doing this before we did. It's a common practice. People come and go. So what they put in that MOU was I was to repopulate the department. We're going to hire 3 people: election assistant, election manager, and election director. So I put out those applications on the website. We had a former at this point, he was the election director of another county for the state of Arizona. And to find somebody with that experience is almost impossible. So we interviewed him. He satisfied the interview. The board approved his selection. All I had to do was run through the interview process. The board approved that selection, and he took the job. Unfortunately, about 4 months later, he decided to go back to the other county. So he left that job. We have now since had 2 more election directors since then. One was a family issue, and then the second one's still in the office right now.
Okay, and so we do have an elections director.
We do.
Okay.
We do.
I missed that one.
Her name's Marty. She's been there since the spring. I believe it was mid-February she took over, doing a wonderful job. Want to keep her there because I don't ever want to do it again. So yeah, I got accused when I ran for office here in 2016 that I was going to take that job. I've had 7 years to take it, and I've never wanted it. I decided to help the county when they asked me for the help when that ballot or when that election was going on, because there was just nobody else was there to help. So I did it, and once that election was over, I resigned out. I just did it for that election. I was gone.
Okay, and then the other thing I want to let you address, because it's been out, is the transparency within the department, or people feeling there's a lack of transparency.
I have an open door. I've invited anybody to come down to view how we do our job. It's not an extensive job since we do it 50, 60,000 times an election. So it's very repetitive. If you're talking about election things, but yeah, the invitation's been out whenever I got to speak publicly. I tell them, please call us, make sure we're not inundated. Don't come down the day before the election and expect to have a tour, because it's not going to happen. Because we've got ballots everywhere, but at any time, come on down, we'll show you. It's not that hard. The biggest issue I have when I speak publicly is people just don't understand the process from start to finish. An election takes 4 to 5 months. It's not one day you vote and it's over. There's a lot of prep work, depending on which election it is. A lot of prep work before, during the election, and even weeks after the election. a lot of reports we have to fill out, the canvassing, certification, all of those things wrap up in an election, and it's a long process. I'm in my third federal election this year, and it basically started last December. So we are now 10 months into a constant election cycle, and we won't be out of it until December of 24.
And so, what is, I guess, for you the most important thing you want voters or people to know about you and what you're running on?
I have spent the large portion of my life devoted to other people. I don't know if you can see behind me my medal for being an Eagle Scout. I served in the military. I was a firefighter. My diploma's back there. I went overseas when I was in my 40s. Whenever I could do to help out, I'm there. I spent nearly 30 years in scouting. Got a top secret security clearance with DOD. I was a defense contractor for about 30 years. 20 years. Edit that out. 20 years. But I'm an honest person. I will answer any question posed me, provided it's relevant to my office. You know, you may ask me why do birds not eat apples? I don't know. But yeah, if you want to know more about how we do our job here, come on down. I'll walk you through it. Just again, don't come down the day before election. We're kind of busy. It's we have people in the office nearly every day researching our history. Of course, the people that live here understand our history. Going back to 1881, we got Tombstone, Bisbee, we've got the Douglas, Benson, Wilcox. Every community has a piece of history. Coming down, check it out. If you like history anyway, it's a wonderful place to be. If you want to know more about voting, come on down. Like I said, we'll walk you through it. We'll set up some time. Maybe you can get with Marty and go through her half of the election process. Hers is more intense than mine. She hires hundreds of poll workers. I don't have to hire anybody. That's always a huge issue, you know, getting people to work. But
one more thing, because I feel like I should let you voice things that and clarify. Was the ballot paper that we have but cannot use in storage?
oh, you're talking about the grant? Yes. Yeah, the grant came out from the legislature. They were testing security measures in the paper. I have a background as a contractor and in the military of doing research and development. I spent 2 years with EPG, which is Electronic Proving Ground, on Fort Huachuca as a soldier, and then as a contractor doing software testing. We actually tested one of the first cell phones for the military. So my background's in test and development. So they asked me if they made the grant available to everybody, every county. I'm the only one that accepted it. And the goal was 3 phases. Things you put in the paper, like watermarks. Things you put on the paper, barcodes, printed stuff. And will it tabulate? That was the 3 steps of the grant. The board decided to not extend the grant, so it ended prematurely. And now you have the issue of the paper. That will be handled after the election.
Okay. And so that wasn't county funds used?
No, that was state grant money. The legislature put it in the state budget, so it was set aside. Less than, I want to say 18% of the money was used. The goal is to sell the paper back to Runbeck if they want it, which they've indicated they do. So that money will go back to the grants division at ADOA, the Arizona Department of Administration.